Hey guys, Andrew Shrout here in the new and improved Players Championship Edition sideboard, and I'm here with Chris VanMeter, your Season 2 leaderboard invitational earner.
Yep. Technically, Season 4 points leader as well, but it didn't really matter.
All right, so kind of a double dipper there, but who's counting? Who's counting?
Me.
Fair enough. All right, we're here to talk about your standard deck, so let's get right into it. You are playing Jeskai tokens.
To the surprise of probably nobody.
So this is not a new deck exactly, but we'll go over it pretty quickly for those that at home that haven't really been following. So just real quickly, take us through the cards.
Well, these are the creatures in the deck. We have 4 Raise the Alarm, 4 Hurtling Outburst, and 4 Goblin Rabblemaster.
Okay.
They all generate tokens. Sure. Rabblemaster, at the beginning of your combat, but Outburst and Raise the Alarm also generate tokens, which work very well with Jeskai Ascendancy, which is the namesake card of the deck.
Okay. So in addition to the token makers, we have some non-token threats. This is basically threat / engine / win condition / cool portrait.
Yeah, it's just the card is a mistake. We're going to end up seeing that as the formats continue to change, be it in Legacy, Modern, and in Standard. Secret of the Way is just there as a 2-drop, can help gain you some life.
Sure.
Chandra Pyromaster is just great value if you happen to hit any control decks.
Okay.
But Jeskai Ascendancy is the centerpiece of the deck.
Gotcha.
It allows you to combo kill your opponents with your tokens. It also allows you to do some really sick things with cards like Hurtling Outburst alongside cards like Stoke the Flames.
Okay, which we will see. So, in addition to your tokens, you have a lot of burn in this deck.
Yes.
Which you mentioned Stoke the Flames. We don't even have that on the screen yet.
Not yet.
But we've got Jeskai Charm, Lightning Strike, and Magma Jet.
Yeah, so this is where the deviation came from. The deck was originally designed by Yuya Watanabe at the World Championships. In the Open in Portland, Brad, Tom Ross, and I ended up playing the same deck, but we cut the 4th strike for I take it back. We cut the 4th Seeker for a Magma Jet, and the Magma Jet was just phenomenal all day.
Gotcha.
I played it again in the Standard Open in Seattle, and I cut the 4th strike for a second Magma Jet just because, like, the key number in the format is basically 4.
Sure.
So strike doesn't really kill anything outside of Fleecemane Lion that Magma Jet can kill.
All right.
But getting the extra scries is actually really important trying to find your cards like Jeskai Ascendancy.
Sure. And if you don't have an actual 2-drop, Magma Jet actually kind of functions as something you can play on turn 2 even if there's not a target because it scries, I suppose.
Exactly. Now, Jeskai Charm is a weird card. It just fills so many roles in the deck. Sometimes you just get to gain 6 or 9 life with your tokens. It's a way to put like Siege Rhino on top if they happen to use a fetch land. Sometimes you just do 4 to their dome and burn them out. Killed a lot of people from 14 with just burn spells before.
Okay. And then a couple of power 4-ofs to round out the deck. Of course, we talked about Stoke the Flames already.
Yep.
But it just throws fire at the head.
Yes. And we have Treasure Cruise, which is, outside of Jeskai Ascendancy, in my opinion, is the best card in the deck.
Sure.
I feel like it's probably the best card in Standard, to be completely honest. The card is just very overpowered, especially alongside Jeskai Ascendancy. So Ascendancy is like the centerpiece of the deck. It holds everything together. You have your tokens, get to take advantage of the Convoke on Stoke the Flames, but you also just have 4 Ancestral Recalls in your deck, which just end up making games really absurd because people want to try and grind you out when you have these cards, but then this just makes it not possible.
It's a powerful effect.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of breeze through the mana base. Not any reason to actually talk about it specifically. It's a mana base. I want to ask you really quickly. You mentioned that you played this deck in Portland. What was it that drew you to this deck in the first place?
Well, actually, it was Brad that told me that the deck was just absurd. I'd been working with BBD on a red-white deck.
Sure.
And when I got to Portland, Brad was just like, this Ascendancy deck is ridiculous. I've been playing a bunch with it. I played a couple games with it and was hooked instantly. And I've just been playing it since then. I played it again in Seattle at the Standard Open. I didn't play it in the Invitational because we wanted to try and metagame the Abzan decks, which didn't really work because sometimes you just don't play against Abzan.
Sure.
And now I'm back on this tokens deck. Biggest reason is familiarity. I feel like the Standard format really, benefits the grinder.
Sure.
Anybody that has been playing a deck for a while knows the deck in and out, the sideboard, all the different matchups.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that there's a worse matchup in Standard than 60-40. So at the very worst, you might be a 40% dog, which you can make up with skill and being familiar with your deck. So just playing something that you know very well is much better than trying to break the format, because I don't think the format can be broken. The cards are just also powerful.
Absolutely. And if the format can be broken, then I think the crazy, modern, troublesome combo engine and Ancestral Recall is...
It's probably the one that's going to do it.
That seems reasonable. You talked about metagaming for the Invitational. This is an even smaller tournament.
Yes.
You know basically all of the players. You're friends with a lot of them already. So talk to me a little about your preparation for the event in terms of your predictions. Like, what are you expecting the field to look like?
Well, I feel like the predictions is the biggest part of this, especially for those of us that traveled to Seattle and played in the Invitational. There really wasn't a lot of time to prepare between then and now for this tournament, so the big part of it is utilizing your time effectively, figuring out what their ranges are for what decks they could be playing, and then try and position yourself accordingly. Going through all the 16 different players, I figured that at the most there might be like between 2 and 4 people that would be on Abzan, which is this deck's worst matchup.
Sure.
So I kind of felt confident because even if there were 2 to 4 people on Abzan, I still have a chance to win in the matchup, and we're at best even, if not favored, against almost every other deck with the tokens deck. So I figured it was a safe bet.
Okay. So we'll kind of breeze through to the sideboard real quick. The reason I wanted to bring up the metagame in particular because you mentioned that you hadn't deviated much from Yuya's original build with the main deck, but that the sideboard you had kind of made a few more tweaks.
Yeah, the sideboard is a bit of a mix between Dylan Donegan's sideboard from the Invitational and Yuya's sideboard.
Okay.
So Yuya's sideboard had like 3 End Hostilities, the Elspeth and Anger of the Gods, 2 magma sprays, just like a bunch of spot removal and sweepers. Because against a lot of the decks, you just want to sideboard into this control deck.
All right.
But I feel like that's a known quantity now at this point.
Sure.
And I think that the Abzan mid-range decks are kind of taking over the Abzan whip decks.
Okay.
Since people are like on Doom Lake Giants to fight Hornet Queen, so it's not a big trump, so you might as well just be as aggressive as possible.
Gotcha.
So my plan for this Invitational is I still have the Elspeth, as we'll see, but I've cut a stroke. We have a couple negates so that we can counter cards like Drown in Sorrow.
Okay.
And my plan against the Abzan decks is just bring in Brimaz, keep my Rabble Masters in, and use cards like Glare of Heresy and Elspeth to handle their Siege Rhinos, and just actually attack them and not try and combo them.
All right. Just kind of clear the lanes and get in with your little ground pounders.
Yeah, like all the cards that are good against Brimaz are bad against my deck. So I'm hoping that their Heroes Downfalls and Murderous Cuts are not in their deck post board.
Okay.
They just have a bunch of Bio Blights and Drown in Sorrow and then just lose to a 3-4.
All right. That seems like a reasonable plan. Of course, Disdainful Stroke to basically keep the board clear. 2 of Erase. This is for the mirror, I suppose.
Well, Erase isn't all that great in the mirror. I'd rather have Glare of Heresy, but it's mainly for the whip decks because it hits whip and Doom Lake Giant.
Gotcha.
And sometimes can snag a Corsair.
Okay. 2 negates and 1 Elspeth Sun's Champion. Couldn't quite get away from it.
I still like the Elspeth against all of the Siege Rhino decks. It's also very good against the control decks.
Sure.
So like Jim Davis and Gerard Fabiano, I'm going to put them both on Dig Through Time decks in Standard. And since both of them were at-large invites, I have a chance of hitting either of them in my pod.
Sure.
Since there's going to be 2 spots from the at-large people, so I just wanted to have. That's why I'm playing 2 negates alongside the strokes. It's just different ways to hedge against the control decks if I happen to get paired against them.
Gotcha. And then rounding out the sideboard, 2 Anger of the Gods and 3 Glare of Heresy. The Glares you mentioned.
Yeah.
Anger of the Gods.
I still want Anger because if you happen to get paired against a whip deck, it's really good against like the Hornet Queen and whatnot. But it's also not that bad against the Abzan aggro decks, especially if they start to adopt the 1-drop build that Aaron Barrich has been playing pretty often.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, thanks for coming in and talking to me.
Absolutely.
Good luck tomorrow.
That's what we're hoping for.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Players' Championship here in Roanoke.